My ex-stepdad had no issues punishing me and my brother in questionable ways. I have a scar on my back from when he took a branch that was on fire from our fire pit and would mack the hell out of me with it. One time he also pinned me down and would let my sister repeatedly punch me in the nose because I apparently had upset her. I remember one time our deep freeze got left open and all the meat thawed and he would whip me and my brother until one of us confessed. Turns out it was him after all during a drug night and he wanted something to eat. Control everything. I don't necessarily have a helicopter mom, but she's definitely controlling. I am 20 years old and she cried and told me I was being selfish when I told her I wanted my SSC and my birth certificate when I moved a few states away. I don't know how to file my own taxes. I never did anything. I would have preferred her tell me more things and help me do things rather than do it all herself and keep me out of the loop. I had to literally steal my SSC from my mom's closet so I could get a job when I was 18, because she wouldn't give it to me. When she found out I was working, she complained a whole bunch but I convinced her to let me keep going. After I left my job at Subway after 4.5 months, I made roughly $1,000, and she took all of it. Literally snatched the money from my fingers and put it into a bank account that I am still not allowed to touch, a year later. If stuff like this keeps happening, I honestly don't know how I'm gonna survive as an adult, and that terrifies me. Edit, since this got a lot of attention. Thank you also so much for all your advice on adulting. I have read everything, have joined all of the subs that people recommended to me and will be doing my best from now on to be independent with my finances and look out for myself. That being said, I don't think I have the heart to take my mom to court. It's very frustrating when she does things like this and we don't always agree on what's best for me or for the family, but I don't consider my mother to be exceptionally bad or neglectful. She's a good woman, but she just has a really outdated and helicopterish view of the world sometimes. While I know that what she did is possibly considered a crime, I've been under a lot of stress lately with all this COVID stuff, and adding a court case to the mix doesn't sound like it would be good for my mental health at all. The plan now is to open my own checking account as soon as possible. In the future I will make sure to keep my mom out of any job finance related decisions I make, and keep my money to myself instead of letting her basically rob me like the dumbass I was 1 year ago. Thank you again, Reddit. This has been a real eye-opener. Stop talking to them over a woman, twice, and let them forget I'm here for them and I love them. My dad was not a good dad. I remember when I was little after my parents got divorced, I would sit on our front steps with my little suitcase waiting for my dad because he'd tell me he was coming to get me. My mom would get a call from my dad making some excuse as to why he couldn't come get me. She told me she would break down and cry because she was the one that had to tell me he wasn't coming, and she knew I'd be upset and likely cry. This happened a lot. I also remember when they made us start dialing area codes. I was probably 7. I didn't know, so I'd dial the 7-digit number and it just gave me a busy signal. I tried to call him for months. I would sit there and cry because I wanted my dad to just be my dad and I didn't know if he was even alive. Turns out he was alive, he just didn't care to give his son a call. Growing up without a dad sucks. My son will never experience that. I hug him, and kiss him, and tell him I love him all the time. Maybe too much, but I don't care. He's 5 and he'll be pushing me off him before long. I'd rather him be spoiled than go through what I went through. Chose drugs over me, left me with a babysitter that molested me for years, choke slammed me to the ground, dropped a knee in my chest fracturing my sternum, tried to fight me for my smart-ass mouth. Those are just a few gems of my wonderful childhood. Tell them to come stay into the living room, even late in the evening, and argue in front of them to have them as witnesses. Have them stand and face the wall of my bedroom for 40 minutes while I lie in bed and watch some things on my laptop. Drive dangerously in my car, sudden full stops on the highway, aggressively speeding and changing the gear aggressively, when the children are arguing in the back seat, to scare them. I'd be okay really when my father did this. Stop allowing contact with my brother-in-law because he's gay, and alienating the entire family with this. Ensuring that my child has no family except parents and sibling. Edit. Sorry I worded this weirdly, I tried to write it from the perspective of my parents, I guess. My father forbid my mother contact with her brother because he's gay. Locking them in a dark bathroom for at least 20 minutes. Force my religion belief on them. Compare me to my sister. We weren't vastly different through every stage of life. Just because you preferred her way of life growing up, she was a straighter, smart, mostly obedient child. I was a go-fast, impulsive, later pothead. I don't know, being compared rather than loving me for who I was hurt. My mum later apologized for doing this after we got older, but I won't forget feeling like her. She doesn't like me, but what if I was like *Lisa? Never tell your children why can't you be more like your sister brother. Make my daughter feel insecure about her looks or feel that her entire worth is tied to her looks. My mom's an attractive woman. I took a lot of my looks from my dad's side of the family, and she made it no secret that she felt they weren't attractive people. She would compare my looks to other girls. I was an awkward teen. She didn't like how my hair is more afro-textured, or how I put on makeup. It took my husband to help me to realize that I didn't need makeup to be pretty. Girls go enough insecurity about their looks. I won't be the one to make it worse. My mom never allowed me to express my emotions in a healthy way. Whenever I would cry, there would be a time limit like, okay, you've cried enough, now stop. Same thing with every other emotion as well, especially negative ones. My dad was the fun parent to me until I grew up and realized he emotional and mentally abused my brother and my mom. I never got the brunt of any of it because I was his favorite. I was the favorite for everyone and always needed to be a mediator because no one could communicate properly. You shouldn't face to force a 15-year-old to be a messenger. In the end, my mom realized that she needed to stop hindering my emotional immaturity, but still slips into really bad habits, and okay, that's enough, here is advice. My dad is still a piece of shit. He stopped the abuse mostly, but even so he's the type that has given up on himself and won't try to get better than he was. He's disappointed me too many times. I won't tell my kids it's not bad to cry. I won't hold grudges against them. I won't play favorites. Both me and my husband had bad parents, and I know I'll be doing mistakes too, but I'll own up to it and do my best to learn. My parents didn't have any friends or real hobbies. I am framing this as something that I wouldn't do to my kids because my parents always made us feel like a burden and a sacrifice even if they didn't mean to. It was an enormous amount of pressure to be the only thing in their lives besides work and church, and it really made parenting look like this bummer of an obligation until your kids go away to the military, college, or a job. They always talked about how we go to all of your band recitals and whatnot, but I would have honestly preferred if they had been picking up extra shifts to get out of debt faster, or even said something like, I have a book club meeting I am excited about, I'm going hunting with the guys, I have a cooking class at least every now and again. I remember growing up I had this huge list of things I wanted to do, places I wanted to go, food I wanted to try when I got older. And I was just so perplexed that my parents' whole world was their kids, to the point where they didn't seem to care about anything else. I was allowed to band because it was basically extended childcare from school. In the summer I was allowed to check out library books because they kept me quiet all day while my mom did housework. That was pretty much the only place we went, again, besides church. But we didn't have the internet when I was growing up because my parents didn't trust it and didn't want to spend time on parental controls, and I wasn't allowed to do a martial arts class I wanted to do because it was too much of an inconvenience. It was 2 miles down the road. I really do think that being that insular with your family is a good way to squash your kids' creativity and sense of exploration, and I would caution against it. Oh. Oh.